It all started with a simple enough sentence. Taoiseach Michael Martin stood up at a grand academic conference in Trinity College and declared that the Irish were never a homogeneous group. To some, this was just stating a fact of history, a nod to the countless waves of arrivals that have shaped this island for millennia. But words from a Taoiseach carry a special weight. They aren't just academic observations, they become part of the national story we tell ourselves. The statement landed like a stone in a quiet pond, sending ripples out that were bound to agitate the surface of our national consciousness. It was a direct challenge to a certain kind of story, the one about a pure, unbroken line of Irishness stretching back into the mists of time. Then came the fiery response from Ken O'Flynn, the Independent Ireland TD from Cork. He wasn't having any of it. He heard the Taoiseach words and the reported use of the term mongrels by a historian at the same event as a direct assault on the very idea of a core Irish identity. For O'Flynn and those who share his view, this wasn't just a historical debate, it was a present-day crisis. He voiced a deep-seated fear that the word Irish is being stretched so thin, becoming so elastic and all-encompassing that it might snap and lose all its meaning. He demanded to know if the government was officially denying that there was ever a time when the Irish people shared a powerful, cohesive sense of themselves. This clash is about more than just semantics. It taps into a fundamental question we are grappling with in modern Ireland. What does it mean to be Irish today, on this day, the 14th of June 2025? Is it about blood and ancestry, a connection to a specific ethnic heritage that has been passed down through generations? Or is it something else entirely? Is it a set of values, a cultural passport earned by living here, contributing to society and embracing the complex, often contradictory spirit of the place? The Taoiseach's comments suggest the latter, painting a picture of an identity that has always been a composite, a mixture of different peoples and traditions from the very start. Mr. O'Flynn's reaction, however, shows that many people are not ready to let go of the former idea so easily. They see a danger in this new, more fluid definition. They worry that if being Irish is open to absolutely everyone, without any connection to a shared past or heritage, then it ceases to signify anything special. It becomes a generic label, a flag of convenience rather than a banner of a distinct people with a unique story. This isn't just nostalgia for a bygone era. It's a genuine anxiety about cultural dissolution in a rapidly globalizing world, a fear that we might lose the very thing that makes us us. The argument for a more homogeneous past often looks to the era before the Normans arrived in 1169. This is the period romanticized as the golden age of a purely Gaelic Ireland. It's the Ireland of saints and scholars, of high kings ruling from Tara, and of a society united by a common language, a sophisticated legal system under Brecon law, and a rich tapestry of mythology and artistic expression. In this view, the island was a culturally unified entity. People from Donegal to Wexford might have had their local rivalries, but they shared a foundational identity as Gaels. They spoke the same language, worshipped in a similar way, and understood the world through the same cultural lens. This vision of pre-Norman Ireland is powerful because it offers a touchstone of unity. It suggests there was a time before the complexities of conquest, plantation, and colonization began to muddy the waters of who was truly Irish. It was an island defined from within, not by outsiders. The intricate beauty of the Book of Kells or the Ardagh Chalice is held up as proof of a singular, highly developed culture that was distinct from any other in Europe. The argument goes that while there were always comings and goings, Vikings settling in Dublin, for example, the dominant Gaelic culture was strong enough to absorb these newcomers. Of course, professional historians would be quick to point out that this picture is a bit too tidy. They would argue that pre-Norman Ireland was far from a unified political state. It was a patchwork of warring kingdoms and shifting alliances, where the concept of a single Irish nation as we understand it today simply didn't exist. They'd also remind us that the Gaels themselves were not a single pure-blooded race that sprang from the soil. The very myths the Irish told about themselves, like the Lebor Gabála Éire or the Book of Invasions, are stories of successive waves of migration and conquest. From the Fir Bolg to the Tuatha De Danann and the Milesians, Yet the idea of this core Gaelic identity persists because it addresses a deep human need for roots and belonging. It provides a starting point, a year zero for Irishness, before the long and often painful history of interaction with our larger neighbour began. Ken O'Flynn's challenge to the Taoiseach is in essence a defence of this foundational story. He's asking whether we are now meant to discard this narrative of a cohesive Gaelic people, and if so, what are we supposed to replace it with? It's a question that resonates with anyone who feels that the pace of change is eroding the landmarks of our shared past. The heart of this debate really lies in the definition of two words: homogeneity and diversity. When someone like Ken O'Flynn speaks of a core homogeneity, they are not necessarily arguing for a state of absolute sameness. They are talking about a recognizable center of gravity for our national culture. This center is traditionally defined by things like the Irish language, Gaelic games, traditional music, and a shared historical memory, particularly of struggle and resilience. For them, homogeneity means having enough common cultural DNA that an Irish person from one part of the country can recognize a kindred spirit in another. So why does it matter if the meaning of Irish becomes more flexible? The risk, as O'Flynn sees it, is one of meaninglessness. If the definition becomes too broad, does it lose its power to unite? If an Irish passport holder in Dublin has nothing culturally in common with one in Cork or Donegal, what is the point of the shared identity? Ultimately, a nation is a story. It's the collective narrative we agree upon that gives us a sense of who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. That is why it is so crucial for our leaders, especially the Taoiseach, to be clear and thoughtful when they speak about it. Their words don't just reflect the national mood, they actively shape it. When Michael Martin says the Irish were never homogeneous, he is consciously steering the national story in a direction he wants. The sharp reaction from Ken O'Flynn demonstrates that this shift cannot be taken for granted. It must be part of a wider public conversation, not simply declared from an academic podium. The people that have been brought to Ireland are not here to enrich, they don't want to accept our culture, they don't contribute. They're here getting preferential treatment, creating no-go areas for women and children. And still they're coming. People need to rise and protect our own. We are being failed by those in power.